Right? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So today we are going to complete our HTML helper section, right? So as of now, we have discussed and we have seen the use of a different types of HTML helper method to generate a different types of a HTML element, like we have discussed input type element, action link helper method. We have discussed text area, drop down list, checkbox, list box, right? Radio button, right? Different types of HTML helper we have used to generate different types of HTML elements. Now, what ASP.NET Core MVC framework provides, it provides another HTML helper method, that is editor helper method. And this helper method is going to generate HTML element based on the data type that we supply, right? So basically, based on the data type, it is going to generate the HTML element, right? If this is not clear at the moment, don't worry, we will discuss one example, right? So that you will get better clarity. So based on the data type, if you want to generate the corresponding HTML element, then you can make use of this editor helper method. The ASP.NET Core MVC framework provides editor helper method for simple type view, right? So basically, if you are going to generate a simple view, then you can use this editor for helper method, right? If you want to create a complex view, then you should not use this thing, right? Again, like other, there are also two versions of this method. One is editor helper method, which is going to be used for simple type, and editor for basically used to or basically you need to use whenever we are going for a strongly typed view for which we have a model object, right? So for which data type, what kind of a HTML elements it is going to be generated, that what we need to understand first. So please look at this diagram, right? Suppose your data type, your property data, suppose you are having one model, and that model having many properties. If the property data type is string, then it is going to generate input type text element. If it is an input type integer number, right? The property data type is integer, it is going to generate number. For decimal float, it is going to generate a text box. If your property is a boolean type, then it is going to generate checkbox. If your property type is enum, it is going to generate a text box. And for date time, it is going to generate a date time. So these are the default, right? What kind of default types of HTML element that is going to be generated based on this property, right? Right, based on this data types. Let us understand. So this is with an example, right? So suppose, right, we are having this model. Okay, let me first create this model. Go to my project, open this model folder, add a class file with the name employee.cs. So this is my model. So this class file is wrong. Right? So this is my model class, and inside this class, what I'm doing, I'm creating one enum and one class. So this is my employee class. You can see I'm taking different types of properties, and this is one enum. And I have created integer type property. I have created string type property. I have created enum type, integer type. This is boolean type, and this is DOP. So for integer type, it is going to generate input type number element. For name, gender, right? For enum string, it is going to generate a text box. And again, integer means it is going to generate one enum. For a boolean type, it is going to generate a checkbox. And for DOB, it is going to generate a datetime picker. So basically, what I meant to tell you is, we are going to use this model, right, with the editor helper method, and the editor helper method is going to generate the right properties, right? Going to generate the HTML element based on the data type of these properties. How we can make use of? Let us try to understand, right? So first of all, let me modify the uh, home controller class code like this. So basically we need to create one object, right? So you can see I'm creating an employee object, and I'm setting the properties values like ID, name, gender, age is newly created, and the DOB. And then I'm passing that employee object to the view. Next, what we need to do, we need to modify the Next, we need to modify the index view, right? Give me 1 minute, guys. Right. So next, what we need to do, we need to generate the HTML, right? We need to create the index view. Okay, right click, go to the view. The view is already there. Replace the code, right? So you can see what I'm doing here. So where is my model? Model is here. So two times. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. So you can say this is my helper, HTML helper dot models, and I'm using this model. And this model is being passed by the action method to the view, right? So then what I'm doing here, I'm using editor and I'm specifying the employee ID. Editor, right? I'm specifying the name, gender, age, is newly created, and the DOP. Right, so basically you can see I have not specified whether it is going to generate a text box, whether it is going to generate a right checkbox, whether it is going to generate a number field, or whether it is going to generate a date time picker. I have not specified anything for all this property name. I have used the editor helper method. Then what this editor helper method is going to do, it is going to check this is the employee ID property of this model, right? So what is the data type? Yes, data type is integer. Okay, let me create a input type of number element. Okay, what is the data type of this name property of this model object? The name property of this model object is string. Okay, let me create a write a text box. So what is the property type is in this case gender. Gender type is what enum. Okay, let me create a text box. So in this case, what is the property type? Property type is a date time. Okay, let me create a date time picker so that the user can select the appropriate date type. So with these changes, right now, if you run the application, there are some build error. Okay, let me check what error. HTML helper doesn't exist. Okay, let me remove these things. Okay. Now run the application and you should see the output as expected. So it should create the text box, right? So you can see this is employee ID. So employee ID means it is going to give a number picker. This is name, gender, right? So if you look at this picture, right, then for string data type, it is going to generate a text box. For integer, it is going to generate a number. Right? So employee ID data type is integer. So one number is input type number is going to be generated. For enum and string, it is generating a text box. Okay, if you check for enum, it is going to generate a text box. For string, it is going to generate a text box, and that is what you can see here. For age, again, it is a integer data type, so it is going to generate a date time picker, right? And for the Boolean data type, it is going to generate input type checkbox. And that is what you can see here, input type checkbox. And for a date time, it is going to generate an input type date time. So you can see the date time picker is there where you can select the data and the time. So you can see by default 29.2 is selected because that value we have passed from our controller, right? So we have set the date time value to this, and this is the reason why you can see the value here. If you want to change, yes, you can change. You can select any date time, right? You can select any date, right? And that you can select also. Clear? So this is how the editor helper method works in your ASP.NET Core MVC application. Clear, guys? So based on the data type, right, of the property, it is going to generate the required HTML elements. Clear?
Yes.
Clear? Okay. Now what we need to do, we need to make use of the HTML for extension method. So the concept is going to be same. Same in the sense, instead of a HTML helper, instead of a editor, we need to use the editor for And as here we are hard coding the property name, right? Or the name we have hard coded. And in the case of editor for what we need to do, we need to provide the name by using the lambda expression. That's it. So here you can see I'm using employee such that employee dot empid, employee name, right? Gender, age, use newly created, and the DOP. Clear? So here you can see we have not provided the hard-coded name, rather we are providing the name from the model properties. So whatever the property name, that name we are providing here. So with these changes, now if you run the application, then again you will get the same output. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a very simple thing, right? And you should know. So if you do not want to think about much what type of HTML helper method I need to use, right? If you are not that good, right? In that case, instead of using a text box or text area, drop down list, checkbox, right? So forget about all those things. Just use this one. But in real time, we are not going to use this editor or editor for helper method. We generally going to use the specific one because specific one gives you more clarity, right? And you will understand this thing. And the difference is going to be same, right? This is a strongly typed, right? Editor for is a strongly typed. Other one is not the strongly typed. As it is the strongly typed, it will give you compilation error. It will give you intelligent support, right? And but that is not possible with your other one, right? The next one, what we are going to discuss is password HTML helper, right? So password HTML helper means what? Okay, password helper method. So right, in HTML, the input element with the attribute set to password is create, right, a password input field. If you set right one, if you create one input element, and if you set the type, right, a type attribute as password. Like, for example, this is my input element. And if I set the type attribute as password, then it is going to be a password input field. And this type of input field is specifically designed for users to securely enter sensitive information. So securely entered sensitive information in the sense what? Now say, if you remember, if you are working with any kind of real-time applications, right? Whenever you are entering your password, it is going to be masked with some asterisk symbol or some star symbols. Whenever you are entering the credit card information, right? Credit card information in online portal, asking you to enter the credit card number, enter the CVV number, right? Right. In that case, it is making use of this input type password. Even though if you are entering them some PIN code, right, or some OTP kind of information or some other confidential data, then you need to use this password input field. And in the case of a password input field, right, typically it is going to display some kind of a dot or asterisk or a star, so that the user will not able to see what exactly the data is. But behind the scene, whatever the actual data that is going to be passed. But guys, remember, these are only a way to hide the data, right? But if you want to see the actual data using the browser developer tool, then you can also see. Just open the browser developer tool, just change this type password to text, and whatever data you have specified, right, that original data it is going to show, right? So basically what I mean to tell you is, if you want provide if you want protect your data, it should be protected on the server side, not on the client side. Yes, client side is there for somehow. If you want to, if you do not show the data, then in that case you can make use of this password. But it doesn't matter at all, because as a developer, right, if you are having some basic idea, basic knowledge, then you can also see what exactly you are entering, right? And whenever we are creating password field, right, the most important point that you need to remember is you need to use the type as password. So once you use the input type as password, it is going to generate the password field, right? For example, okay. So for example, if I'm using this one, okay, let me run this using IIS Express. right? So this is my password field, right? So here you can see it is saying something dot, right? But but here you might be assuming that yes, my password is invisible to anyone, right? But just try to press F12, open the browser developer tool, right? Click on this select an element button, right? Select the password and go to this type. Instead of a password, make it as a text and press the enter button. See, now your password is visible or not. So this is just a way to hide the actual data, right? Instead of showing the data, you are just displaying some other things, some dot symbol, some star symbol. But behind the scene, data, right? Whatever you are entering, that is going to be passed to the server. And if you open the browser developer tool, and if you change that type from password to text, then it is going to be visible, right? So now in ASP.NET MVC, we are provided with two helper methods. One is password, another one is password for. And both this password and password for helper method is going to generate input type element, right? The input element with type password. Now let us see one example to understand these things, right? Let me create one class file with the name login model. So basically, whenever we are allowing the user to log in, at that time we are taking the password right in protected format. Protected in the sense, we are just taking the password not in plain text, but even yes, it is in plain text. But instead of showing the actual text, we are going to show something else. Something else in the sense you can show it. What I can say, by default it is going to display dot symbol, right? You can make replace that with the star symbol, right? Asterisk symbol. That is also possible. Let me create the model class. So this is the model class having three properties. You can see login ID, login name, and login password. So now what I am going to do, I'm going to modify my home controller class. So this is my home controller class. And here you can see I'm just I'm just going to use the view, right? So from this home controller class, I'm doing nothing here, right? Just go to the view and here replace this code. So basically what I'm going to tell you is I'm just using this password field. For this particular example, this login model is not required, but I have created this login model because later I am going to show you how to make use of this password for helper method. So now, if now you can see I'm using this password and whatever the password I have provided. You can also pass something else, right? Something else means the other overloaded version is there, right? Where you can pass some HTML attributes, right? Suppose you want to pass some class file, right? Some class of, so in that case, you can make use of at the rate class equals to form control, right? So any HTML you want to apply, that is also possible. Now run the application and see whether it is going to generate an input type element with the required things. See why it is generated. It is taking this as a value. Okay, it should not be the value. Value is going to be null, right? So, right now, if you open this one, then you will see this class form control is applied. This ID is login ID, name is login password, and a type is password. So basically, this input type password HTML helper, it is going to generate what it is going to generate. It is going to generate the input element of type password, right? And instead of using this one, you can also make use of a password for, right? So password for means what you need to do, you just need to replace this password helper method with password for, and here you need to provided the password field with emp search tab, emp dot login password, right? Password for, then what we need to do, you need to remove the value field. Why? Because whatever the value is set within this property, that is automatically going to be stored. Right now, if you run the application, then you will see the data, right? It is also going to generate the same thing, right? If you open the same HTML element, it is going to be generated, right? So basically, we are having two options to generate HTML password field. So basically, whenever you are doing registration authentication, whenever we are changing the password, whenever you are sending the data in a secure manner, like PIN code, credit card informations, password reset pins, admin panels or user management, right? Any form requiring confidential information. Then in that case, you can make use of this password HTML helper. And the difference between HTML helper password and HTML password for the difference is going to be common for all the right methods. So whatever the difference we have discussed, the same thing is also applicable to here, right? So this is how you can make use of password field. Clear, guys? Clear?
Yes.
Right. So guys, we are just discussing what these HTML method are. The real-time use cases we have not yet discussed, right? Real-time in the sense, I will take all these right helper methods, right? Then I'm going to generate a HTML form by taking every kind of input element, right? That is what we are going to discuss in our coming session, right? Once we discuss this HTML helper, tag helper, once we discuss model validation, data binding, right? The entity framework core or ADO.NET, then I will combine all this concept to perform the real-time application. So in that case, we are not going to hard code anything, right? We are going to generate the database. We are going to perform the operation over the database, right? We are going to make our controller method as async, right? Why we should make them as async, right? Guys, I have shared one document related to multi-threading, asynchronous programming, and parallel programming, right? The difference between them, what exactly the main objective of each of this programming. You guys gone through the document? Anybody have gone through that document? Difference between multi-threading, parallel programming, and asynchronous programming. Not a single person. Then definitely, I'm not going to share anything into this group. That's for sure. Because if I'm giving my input and if I'm providing you to documents, and if you are not going through the document, then what is the meaning of preparing those documents and sending into this group? I'm not going to share any more information right into this group.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yeah,
Hello.
see, I'm putting 2 hours, 3 hours to prepare the document, and if out of 90 people or 95 people, if at least 50, 60 people are not going through the document, then I'm not going to share the same, right? Because it's require effort, right? Don't think that I'm thinking and writing everything at one go. It required effort. Minimum 4 to 5 hours required to prepare that document for me.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
Hello.
yes.
You have shared YouTube tutorials, right?
Oh, not
In
YouTube
the group.
tutorials.
That one you are talking.
No, no, I have not shared
I have
YouTube
gone through that.
tutorial.
Yes.
I'm not shared the YouTube tutorials. I have shared the document only. This is the document.
Okay.
This is the document I have shared. What is the difference between multi-threading, asynchronous programming, and parallel programming? Multi-threading, this is all about a single process split into multiple threads. This is all about multiple tasks running on multiple cores simultaneously. This is all about a single thread initiating multiple tasks without waiting for each other to complete. Right? This is the main objective. Then I have explained what is exactly multi-threading, how it is work, what is the basic concept, what is the challenges. One basic example, right? What is asynchronous programming, how exactly it is work, right? Some of the basic core concept benefits consideration, right? This is parallel programming, how it is worked, right? What is the working principle, right? Some difference from how parallel programming is differences from asynchronous programming. Some one basic example to show the use of this method: multi-threading versus asynchronous programming versus parallel programming, right? Then I have discussed multi-threading real-time examples, right? When you need to use multi-threading, background data processing, parallel image processing, timed and scheduled tasks, concurrent download, server handling multiple method, asynchronous programming real-time examples, fetching data from a web service, reading, writing files. So then I'm discussing parallel programming real-time examples, parallel loops, parallel link queue, parallel task execution, right? When to use multi-threading, when to use asynchronous programming, right? Then when to use parallel programming, then objective of multi-threading, what is the objective? What is the objective of asynchronous programming? What is the objective of parallel programming? I have prepared this document by taking 5 hours, and you guys have not gone through the document. Means it doesn't make any sense to upload here. Okay. See, if I'm sharing something in the group means that is not related to ASP.NET Core, and that is not I'm going to discuss into this group, but that is important, right? That is important. Why? Because people know asynchronous programming, people know multi-threading, people know right parallel programming, but they do not. It's the difference between them. When to use multi-threading, when to use parallel programming, when to use asynchronous programming, right? What are the real-time use cases of each of these approaches, right? That's what you need to learn, right? Okay. Okay, forget about this. Definitely, I'm not going to share any more information, right, which is not related to ASP.NET Core into this group. So you can also customize your password field, right? To customize in the sense you can also provide something like this, right? Something by in the sense you can place this class, place this placeholder. You can also make use of this title attribute, like this. So now with these changes, if you will see run the application, then you will see everything. The class is applicable, applied, the placeholder is applied, right? Enter your password. Whatever you see here, this is nothing but your placeholder. Now, if you move your mouse pointer over, you can see that password text is coming. This is nothing but your title, and the class form control is applied here, right? The class is applied, the placeholder is applied, and the what I can say the title is also applied, and the input type definitely it is going to be a password field. Okay, so this is the use cases, right? And we have also discussed when to use this one. Next one, what we are going to discuss is hidden field HTML helper. Suppose what is exactly the meaning of a hidden field HTML helper means? See, if you generate some HTML input type element with type equals to hidden, then what will happen? Now, in that case, that value it is not going to show to the user on the UI. In the UI, it is not going to show anything to us. But whenever we submit the form to the server, then whatever value you set in the hidden field, that is going to be submitted to the server. The server can fetch the hidden field value, and the server can do the processing as required, right? So and in sometimes suppose we want to update the data, we want to delete some or delete, we want to perform some kind of a update operation, delete operation, right, where the data is already there, but we do not want to show that value into the right in the UI, but whenever we submit the data to the server, we want that value. If that is the case, then you need to use the hidden field, right? And what is the main use of this hidden field means? If you want to pass the data means you don't want to show the data in the UI, but you want to pass the data to the server for the processing. You don't want that data to be modified by the user. For example, one employee form is there, where you can where you allow the user to modify the employee name, employee address, employee gender, employee salary, everything you want to modify, but you do not want to modify that employee ID, which is the primary key in your employee table. Then in that case, you do not want to show that employee ID to the UI, into the user in the UI, right? You do not want that employee ID to be modified by the user. So in that case, you need to make a hidden field for the employee ID. And whenever you modify the employee data in the form and submit the form, along with this modified data, that hidden field data is also going to be submitted to the server, and based on the hidden field, right, based on the employee ID value, it is going to update the data. Maintaining state means if you are creating a multi-state form application, then you can make use of this hidden field, and you can say how many steps are completed, step 1 completed, step 2 completed, and step 3 completed, right? And to maintain that how many steps are completed, you can make use of a hidden field. Because see, if I'm not using hidden field, suppose 3 steps are completed and I'm showing that step number, if I'm making that field as visible, then the user might change that 3 to 1 from 1 to 3, right? That in that case we will not get any problem, right? We will face a problem. So basically we want to maintain the state. In that case we can make use of a hidden field. And this for the security purpose, right? In order to avoid this CSRF problem, right? Cross-site request forgery token problem, right? So what exactly this means? If you create one form, and if so, and you submitted the form to the server process the request. And if someone copy that form from your application from the same UI, and he tried to make another request using the same form, then in that case it is just a cross-site request forgery. Forgery means it is a forgery request. It is a duplicate request, and in order to avoid that duplicate request, you can make use of this hidden field. And by default, if you create any kind of form in ASP.NET MVC or in ASP.NET Core MVC, automatic support is provided, right, to avoid, to prevent this cross-site request forgery attack. And this is possible because of using something called tokens and unique identifier. And for that purpose, they are using hidden field. In the hidden field, they are storing that right value, that secure storing that token or that unique identifier, so that he can identify, yes, this is the unique value. And even if you copy the things and again if you hit the same, then he will check, yes, this value is already used, this token is no more valid, so it is a forgery request, right? And some client side calculation, for example, if you are creating one form, right, and you want to do some kind of a client side calculation using JavaScript, right? And then once the client side calculation is done, then you need to store that value into you need to pass that value to the server. Then in that case, and you do not want to show that calculated value to the user, in that case you can in the JavaScript, you need to write the logic, calculate the value. Once you calculate the value, then store that value into a hidden field. And whenever the form is submitted, whatever value is stored inside that hidden field, that is going to be submitted to the server. So these are the some of the real time use cases of using hidden field. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. Now let us try to understand how we can make use of this hidden field, right? Like other input element, right? It is going to generate input type hidden. And in ASP.NET Core MVC, we are provided with two HTML helper method. One is hidden, and another one is hidden for, right? So basically, it is going to generate something called input type hidden, whose value is going to be submitted to the server, but it is not going to be visible to the user, right? So let me create one model class with the name student.cs, right, to understand this concept. So I'm creating one class file with the name student.cs. Okay, let me stop this application first. Student.cs, and then I'm copy pasting this code. So this is a very simple student model. You can see having the ID, name, and branch properties. Right. Then what I'm going to do, I'm creating this one, home controller. I'm not creating home controller. I'm going to modify the home controller. And you can see this is my index action method, which is of get type. So if by default it is get, if you want to decorate this method with a HTTP get, then that is also possible, right? Right, get. So get means this action method is always going to respond to get HTTP request, and this action method is always going to respond to post HTTP request, right? And in that case, you can see, I'm creating one employee object. I'm creating one employee object, setting the ID, name, and the branch property. And what is my intention? My intention is I want to update this employee information inside the view. Once I update the employee information inside the view, then I want to submit this data, right, to the server. And when I'm going to submit the data, this index HTTP post method is going to receive this employee information, right? So whatever the name is value, whatever the name is updated value, whatever the branch updated value, along with this ID value, I want to receive. And for that purpose, I'm using the same model. If my intention is I want to allow the user to update the name and branch, but I do not want to update this ID and name. But once I get the updated information in order to update the data into the database, then definitely I need this ID value. That means whenever the value is submitted for the post, then along with this name and branch updated information, this model should contain the ID value, right? But the ID should not be updated. Whatever the existing ID value, that should be kept as it is. And for that purpose, inside the view, what we are going to do, we are going to make use of a HTML hidden input for the ID property, right? Now let me go to the view. Okay, so this is my model, right? And here you can see I'm creating one form. And here you can see what I'm mentioning. I'm mentioning whenever the form is submitted, means when I click on the submit button, when I click on the submit button, the form is going to be submitted to the index action method of home controller, whose HTTP form is post, right? That means what? Home controller index action method, if that method is decorated is post HTTP form attribute, then please submit that this form element, right, whatever the element, to this method. And in our controller, do you have any method that is within this home controller with the name index? Yes, we have. But here we have two index method. One is this one and another is this one. To which index method I need to submit the data? And that is going to be specified by using this form method post attribute. Means the method, the action method, which is decorated with the HTTP post form, we need to submit the data to that action method. And here you can see the action method index is decorated with HTTP post method, right? And then you can see I'm creating one hidden field with the name ID. And this hidden field value, I'm see in this case, I'm not using that hidden for. Later I will show you. But for now, I'm using the simple type, right? The not strongly typed helper method. So hidden, and I'm giving the name as ID, and I'm setting the value. Whatever the ID value of this model property, that what I'm storing here. Then I'm creating a label for this name property, and whatever the name value, that is what I'm providing here. Even I'm using some kind of a placeholder, right? It is completely you. You can use or not. That is based on your project requirement, right? And then I'm creating another text box to update the branch property value, right? And now, if you run the application, then you will see that all these things. But you will see the name property, right? Name text box. You will see the branch text box, but you will not see the ID text box. See, in this case, you can see here we are getting the name text box, we are getting the branch text box, but we have not get the ID text box. Now, if you open the page source, right, then if you go to the form element, where is the form element? You can see this is the form element, right? And inside this form element, you can see, right, this is one input type element. The ID field is there, right? The data field is true, data validation required, right? The ID is this, name is this, type is this, and hidden equals to 1. That means this is the value, whose value is 1. Then we have another field that is what you can say, placeholder, right? That input type element, text for ID, and right for the name text box. Another one is there for the branch text box, right? So input type text for the branch, input type text for the name property. Apart from this, then you can see this is my input type submit. But then, as I have told you, this right to avoid a cross request forgery attack, right? It is also making use of something called hidden field, right? So you can see this is my request verification token, and this is my request verification token, which is internally created by, right? If you are creating any kind of form in a MVC or ASP.NET MVC or ASP.NET Core MVC, then you will see one input type hidden field, right? You can see the type is hidden, means this field, this value, right, field is not going to be visible in the UI, and this is the request, right? The field name is request verification token, and the value is set to this one, right? So this is the unique value for this particular request, and this value is going to be changed for each and every request that is going to be submitted. And right, so once we submit this data, right, once we click on this what I can say submit button, then all this form data is going to be submitted. Don't think that only the ID and all these things is going to be submitted, right? Along with this ID, name, branch, this request verification token is also going to be submitted, right? So even I have not tried whether I can access this data from my controller, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a field. I'm going to create a string field with the same name. Let me check whether this name field accept that value or not. Right? I have not tried this one, whether I can access that auto-generated field from my action method or not. For that purpose, I have created this one to test whether I can access that request verification token value or not, right? But guys, remember this token value is one time. Once you submit the form, right? Then if you take this form element and if you copy this form and create another form using anything, right? And from there, if you click on the submit button, then it is not going to be right work. That is what also I'm going to show you, right? So now, okay, let me copy this form element, right, to it notepad. Let me save this. Okay, let me store this inside this tag help, not tag helper, HTML helper, all types. Okay, my test dot HTML, my test dot HTML. Okay, I have saved this form, right? Okay, it will not work because we have changed the model. Okay, let me run the application once more. Okay, I'm changing this data. Copy this one, paste it here. Okay, so now what I'm doing here, okay, I'm modifying this Pranay. Pranay, I have modified this value to Pranay Rao, and I have modified this branch to ETC, right? And I click on the submit button. Once I click on the submit button, you can see right, a branch value I can access, ID value I can access, name value I can access, and the request verification token, right, which is automatically generated by the right ASP.NET Core MVC framework. Whenever we are creating a view, that value we can also access, right? So now you can see here in the UI we have not provided the right ID value. We have not shown. Is that am I showing the ID value? No, but whenever the form is submitted, right, that ID value is still accessible. So it is still submitting the ID value. So the point that you need to remember is, if you are so we need to go for hidden field whenever we don't want to show the value in the UI to the user, but we want that value whenever we submit the form to the server. And in that case, at two hidden field, right, one we generated, that is the ID, and one is automatically generated by the MVC framework. These two hidden fields are submitted to the server. Clear, guys, or not? Yes or no?
Yes, clear.
Right.
So
Now, if sorry,
what is the use of that token, and how will the server know that if the data has not been tampered using that token?
that is only for preventing you, right? That is only for preventing you further attack, right? For example, this is the same token, right? So now I'm clicking on the submit button. I'm not getting the data because it's a right. So I have taken the form. I have copied the form into something else, right? And if you view, then this is also going to be same thing, right? So but in this case, it is not accessing, right? So you can see it is what showing this thing, right? So basically, what is the use of this means? Suppose some hacker is there, right? Some hacker is there, and they want to prevent, right? Okay, to make you understand, what I can do is, okay, let me run this application, press F12, right? And submit this form, right? This is my local host, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm using this Visual Studio, right? So from here it will not work. So basically, see, suppose someone copy your content, right? Someone copy, not this one. If someone copy this form, I hope you guys know all these things, right? What is request forgery attack, right? Suppose someone copy this code, then do you think that this code is going to be work? Okay, let me copy this code, and then what I'm going to do, is working, right? So basically, what exactly the meaning of that token is to prevent the cross forgery request attack. So cross forgery request attack means if someone going to create, right, a new form looks like your form, right, and if they want to submit the data again to the server, in that case, right, that going to be handled, right. For that purpose, I forgot exactly what to use. Something you need to use here. Request forgery. Some exactly I forgot that name. Exactly, yeah. Anti-forgery token, right? So once you use this thing, right, then it is going to prevent the same thing to be accessed, right? So for example, I have used this one now. Where I have accessed this, right? Now, if you submit this one, again it is working. Hmm. Okay, these things, right? And then submit this one. Or maybe submitted. Then what you need to do? You need to open this one and submit this one. Okay, so I have to make that changes as well. And this page is not working, right? Contact the site owner. Why it is not working? Because we have applied that anti-forgery token. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. So
Yes.
basically, if someone copy your form data and once you process the request, and again, if someone trying to access the data, then you will get these things, right? Because it is a forgery request and you cannot do this thing. I assume that you guys know all these things, right? Because this is not new in ASP.NET Core MVC or ASP.NET MVC. It is a common type of things available in every kind of web applications, right? So again, this data, right, is this attribute data annotation. We are going to discuss separately, right? So I will take some example, right, related to this HTTP go, HTTP post, right? This validation, anti-forgery token, no action attribute, right? Everything we are going to discuss again in detail. I assume that you know this CSR attack. Right? But hey, apart from this, yes, DOS attack is there, right? SQL injection attack is there, valid this cross request forgery attack is there, and many different kind of attacks, security attacks is there. Try to learn those things because that will help you to understand the concept in depth, right? Because some of the in the company, right, they might be ask you this question. Even I generally ask this question: what is SQL injection attack and what is this cross forgery request attack? How you can right, prevent this thing in your application, right? So this is how, and now what I'm going to do is instead of using this HTML right hidden field, you can also make use of a HTML dot hidden for, right? So in that case, what you need to do, you just need to change this hidden to hidden for, text box to text box for, and then you need to specify the property name using the lambda expression. And in this case, you do not need to specify the value, right? In this case, you can see you do not need to specify the value name. You only need to specify the model, right? That property name using lambda expression. Automatically, whatever the value stored inside that property, that is going to be stored, right? Now, with these changes, if you run the application, then you will get the data as expected, right? Now, let me run the application. Application is running. We are getting the data, right? Now, if you change this value, right, then once you click on this click button, then you will see that updated value, Pranay Rao. Whatever value, that is going to be come. Clear, guys, how you can make use of this um, hidden field in your application? Clear or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So basically, you can see we are using this passing data for model binding. In this case, we are passing the ID value for model binding. Maintaining state, if you are creating a multi-form, right, multi-step form, then in that case you can use preventing site request for the internally the framework making use of this hidden field to prevent storing client-side calculation, right? If you are using some JavaScript to do some client-side calculation, then you can do this passing user identification, right? In this case, suppose from one firm to another firm you are passing and you want to pass what is the user ID, what is the login credential, then you can also make use of this hidden field, right? These are some of the real-time use cases, and the difference between this hidden and hidden form, it is going to be same means like the other HTML element, it is going to be same. Today's main topic what we are going to discuss is this one. So today's main topic is the custom HTML helper method. So, right, so custom HTML helper method means say already the ASP.NET Core MVC framework provides lots of HTML helper method which we can use for a specific purpose. Specific purpose in the sense text box you can only use for generating a text box. Drop down list you can only generate for generating a drop down list, right? List box you can only use for generating a list box. Hidden field you can only use for generating a hidden field. Password you can generate a password field using that one, right? But if none of this HTML helper or none of this helper method serve our purpose, then what we need to do? We need to create our own custom helper method, right? So now I'm going to show you how we can create a custom helper method. At what scenario we can make use of custom helper method? What are the different real-time applications, right? Where you can go for custom HTML helper method. So let us try to understand this with one example, right? So what is my intention is I want to create a form which should display the employee details like this, where it should display the employee ID, employee full name, employee designation, employee department, and employee photo, right? What is the photo of that employee? That is what it is going to show like this, right? So for that purpose, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the employee model. Already we have created one model called employee. Let me replace that employee model code with this one. You can see this is the ID which is going to hold the ID of the employee, full name, designation, department, and this is the photo. This string is going to contain the path of the photo where the photo is uploaded, and this alternative text means whenever the photo is not available, then I'm going to show the alternative text of the photo, right? Then what we need to do, we need to create one folder called images, and within that images folder, we need to upload all the photos of all employees. So let me first create a folder with the name images. As we know, if we want to serve static files from our application, then those static files should be created or should be stored inside where? Inside the webroot folder. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder called images within our webroot folder. So right click on this www root folder, which is nothing but your webroot folder. Inside this webroot folder, create a folder and rename this as images. So once you create the images folder, then please copy this image and paste it here, right? So copy and paste it here. So that paste option is not showing here. Okay, fine. So we'll do another option. Okay, right. So what I'm doing here, HTML helper. So I'm giving the image name as my image, and it is going to be stored in the form of a PNG. Okay, let me save this one. Go to this folder. Where is the my image.png save? Okay, copy from here and then paste it here. The image option is not showing. Okay, so let me do one thing. Go to the folder explorer and save it here. That's fine. And it should visible here. Okay, my image.png is created. So we have created the employee model class. And instead of partial, you can make use of this class as a partial. No required for partial, because whenever we are going to work with a entity framework code, at that time I will show you what is the importance of a partial class. So this is my image. The image is already created. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to modify the home controller, because the data, the employee information, we are going to pass from the home controller to the view, right? And here you can see what is the name of the image. The image name is my image.png, right? So I have replaced this my image.png. If the photo is not available, then what we need to display? We need to display that Pranay that photo is photo is not available, right? Whatever text you want to display, that is up you. And whatever the details we want to show, that is I have specified here, and then I am passing this employee object to the index view. So next, what we need to do, we need to make the index view, right? We need to change the index view. So for that purpose, what I'm doing, I'm replacing this existing code with this one. So basically, you can see I'm making use of one new helper method here, that is display for. So what is the use of this display helper method means? It is going to return the element, right? So basically, what I can say, you can see display a template. The template is found using this things. So the point that the remember unit, if you look at this explanation, then you will not understand anything. So forget about this and let me explain this. So this display for helper method, what exactly this is going to do? It is going to display the property value. So whatever the property value is there, that is going to be displayed. You don't want to update the data, right? You only want to display the data. For displaying purpose, right? It is going to if you are only using display if you want to display the data, right, then you can make use of this one. Also other option is that you can directly write like this model.id, that is also fine. So whatever I'm writing here, model.id, it is going to display the model ID into the UI, and the same thing it is going to be done by this display bar. So I'm displaying the full name, I'm displaying the designation, I'm displaying the department, I'm displaying the photo, and I'm displaying the alternate text, right? So now let me run the application and see whether we are getting the data as expected or not. See, we are getting the ID, full name, manager, IT as expected, but photo is not a display. right? So photo is not displaying, and this alternative text is also displayed. So what is my intention? My intention is, if the photo is available, I want to display the photo. If photo is not available, then I want to display this text, right? So if we want to achieve this, then what we need to do? We need to make use of image tag, right? So basically, we need to make use of a image tag. So what you need to do? So you need to comment these things, because you do not need to display this text. You do not need to display this alternative text. So I need to make use of this image tag. And in the we know this image tag is basically to render the image, right? Whatever the image that you, if you want to render, then you need to use image. And then to this image tag, there are few attributes are there. SRC means source of the photo, right? Source means where the photo is available, that path you need to give. And we know the path is this one. But because in the home controller, if you go to this home controller, then we have provided images class. My image is the path where the photo is available, and we have set that path into the photos property. So here we need to provide model.photo. If this photo is available right within this source, then it is going to display the photo. If photo is not available, then what we need to do? We need to display this alternative text property. So model.alternative text. And what is my intention? I want to display the image with the height 200 and the width 200. So with these changes, if you run the application, then definitely you will get the output as expected, and the image is going to be displayed as expected, right? That is working fine. But my intention is that, as I'm using I'm using helper method for every kind of HTML element, then I want to make use one helper method, right, for the image HTML element. But unfortunately, there are no HTML helper method available to display the image, right? But what is my intention? My intention, I want to access the image like this. I want to access the image like this, right? So instead of creating this image tag, setting the source, alt, height, wide, all these things, I want to access the image helper method like this. But unfortunately, there are no image helper method available in ASP.NET Core MVC. So my intention is, I want to create a custom helper method, right? That helper method should text this image, right? Should text the photo, should text the alternative text. If you want to pass height and weight, that is also fine. You can pass two more properties, right? But I want to create one custom helper method which should render the image HTML attribute, right? So for that purpose, right, I'm going to use, or I'm going to create a custom HTML helper method. Now let us try to understand how we can make or how we can create the custom HTML helper method in ASP.NET Core MVC. So first of all, we need to understand, right? So first of all, we need to understand this display for method. It is going to be a right. It is going to be a what kind of a method? It is going to be a extension method.
Yep.
Yes or no? Extension method, it is going to be static method, it is going to be a extension method, and it is extending which class? IHTML helper class. And this is the reason why using this HTML instance you are accessing this display for method. So basically we need to create one static class, because extension method means it definitely going to be inside one static class, right? So if you go to the definition, then you should see, right, the class is going to be static one. So this is a static class. So what our intention, so for example, if you want to create one extension method, right, which I should access using this HTML instance, then I need to create this image method as a static method. That method should be created inside a static class, and the first parameter should be the IHTML content, right? IHTML helper. The first parameter should be this HTML helper, IHTML helper. And once we create this, right, then we can access that image method using this. Clear? So because this is the basic extension method concept, right? If you know what is extension method, then it is not going to be a difficult things for you, right? So let me create a class file with the name custom HTML helper.cs within the model class. So this custom HTML helper class, within this class, we are going to create, right, our static method. So now next what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this code. right? I'm going to replace this code, and you can see what I'm doing here. I'm creating this as a static class because this is the general rule of creating an extension method. The general rule is that the method should be a static method. You can see this image method, it is a static method. The method should belongs to, as it is a static method, right? And this method should belongs to the class that should be of type static. So here you can see I'm creating this custom SQL method as also static. And the first parameter should be the parameter, right? Using which instance I need to invoke this method. I want to invoke this image HTML method using IHTML helper instance. So I'm passing the first parameter as IHTML helper. The rest parameter you can see, the SRC, the attribute, the height, the width, and the CSS class. Right, so anything you can, right? And if you want to make that these two are, this is the mandatory parameter and the rest are optional, right? Then you can also set some default value, right? Some default value. So here you can set some default value, or you can set something called empty, height equals to empty, right? Width equals to empty, right? CSS class equals to empty. So that is also possible. So you can make this method as optional. So basically what it means you can pass, this is the mandatory parameter, rest of all are optional parameter. So, and here the important thing is that whenever we create a method, that method is going to return some data. So basically, what kind of a data you want to return, that you need to specify by using the return type. If you are going to return integer data, the return type is going to be int. If you are going to return some string data, the return type is going to be string. If you are going to return list of employees, then the return type is going to be list of employee. But if you are going to return one HTML tag, then the return type is going to be tag builder. Right, so this is the reason why you can see I'm making this return type. The return type of this image helper method is going to be tag builder, because I'm going to return one HTML tag. Now, if you want to return some employee object, then you need to create an instance. If your return type is employee, then you need to create an instance of employee class. Until and unless you are not creating an instance of employee, then how you can return an employee? So similarly, as the return type of this method is tag builder, so as we are going to return the tag builder from this image HTML method, so I need to create an instance of tag builder. So while creating the tag builder instance, you need to specify this tag builder is bind, or right, this tag builder is going to build which kind of HTML element. I want to create one tag, right? I want to create image tag element. So whatever tag element, whatever HTML tag you want to create, that you need to pass as a parameter to this tag builder constructor, right? So basically here you can see I'm creating image tag builder, right? So here you can see image tag I have created. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the respective properties, right? So within this image tag, there is a property called SRC, and whatever the value I'm getting from this helper method, I'm setting that property value. And then all this, as we are initializing this with empty, so this is not going to be work. So what we need to do, if not equals to string dot is null or empty, right? Alt attribute, then we need to use this one. So basically the current is null, right? It is not going to work. So here again, what I need to do is, right? Again, same thing I'm going to do, right? If, right? So what I'm going to do, second if is not required, right? So here height property is there, right? If this height is null or empty, and it means first condition should be satisfied, and then it is going to check whether the value is greater than 0, then I'm going to set the height. Same thing I'm going to do with the width, right? If the width is null or empty, and if the right, sorry, this is height and this is width, it should be width, right? And if the width is null or empty, and if the width is greater than 0, then I'm going to set the width property. And here again, what I need to do, I need to check, because see, in this case, it is a string property. So what I'm going to check, if string that is null or empty, this class value is null or empty, then I'm going to add the CSS. See, again, you can add this in two ways, right? You can use this class attribute to add this CSS class, or you can use this built-in add CSS class attribute, which is going to add this class, whatever you specified with this class attribute, right? So once you have done this, then what you need to do, you need to return the image tag. Any question related to this example, guys? Clear? Or anybody having any doubt? What I'm doing in this image method?
No, clear.
In line number 8, what is that tag builder, and then IMG, will it go to helper?
So what is that tag builder? That is what you are
No,
posting.
no, actually that parameter IMG, is it
So basically, you just tell me, what is IMG in HTML?
image?
Image. So if you want to render one image, then which HTML tag you need to use in HTML?
IMG.
So, and here, what is our intention? Our intention is we need to create one helper method which should render the right image into the UI. And for rendering the image, I need to create one tag builder, and that tag builder should render what kind of that tag builder should represent what kind of HTML element. That HTML element you need to pass here. And here I'm creating this tag builder to render the image tag. Right. So here, this is the reason why I'm passing this image. If you want to
Got
create
that.
anchor, you need to pass a tag. If you want to create a text box, you need to type that text box, right? Whatever the type of element you want to create, that type you need to pass here,
Got that. Thank you.
right? So this is what our image HTML helper is created, right? Once we create the HTML helper, then what is our next concept? The next thing is we need to use this thing, right? So we need to use, where we need to use this inside this class, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. See, currently, right, as we have created this HTML, right, custom helper method image. So now I can access this image method using this help IHTML helper instance, right? So, and we know this HTML is written on IHTML helper instance. So using this HTML, IHTML helper instance, I'm calling the image method, passing the photo, alternative text, 150, height and width, and I'm not passing any CSS class here, right? And now I can simply comment these things, right? So with these changes, now I'm able to access, right? I'm not going to use a image tag, a search attribute, nothing is going to be done. I'm going to simply call this image helper method, right? Now with these changes, if you run the application, right, then also it is going to work as expected. See, the image is getting displayed. Clear, guys? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So another approach is also available, right? You do not want to, right? You do not want to access, right? If you want, right? I don't want to access using this HTML helper instance. That is fine, no issue. So if I remove the first parameter, then how I can invoke this method? Can anybody tell me? If I want to invoke this image method, how I can invoke this method?
On the class.
Using the class name, right?
Class.
So if you go to the index action method, then just use this one. That's it. And with these changes also, it is going to work as expected, right? So if you open, then you will get the data as expected. So this is how you can create a custom HTML helper, right? So basically, you need to create a static class, one static method. First parameter is nothing but your, right, the class name to which this method belongs to. This is going to be an extension method, right? So this is how you can make use of HTML helper method. Now what I'm going to discuss is real-time use cases, right? So some of the real-time use cases I'm going to discuss, and some of the real-time use cases you need to understand by yourself, right? Form control with validation, right? So form control with validation. So often form controls comes with validation messages, tooltips, specific sales styles, right? Instead of repeating the same structure, a custom HTML helper can encapsulate this pattern. So what exactly it means? It means, see, currently we have not discussed that validation concept, right? If you remember that you need to write the text element, then you need to write the validation element. First of all, you need to write the HTML element, and behind the HTML element, you need to write the validation element. And that things you need to do for each and every input element. So instead of repeating that form control with validation again and again inside our views, right? For example, let me tell you one thing, right? Suppose in this case, what I'm doing, I'm creating this one, and here I can write HTML dot validation message, right? So so like this, suppose here I'm writing something like this. I'm writing the HTML element validation, HTML element validation, HTML element validation, right? Why I'm going to repeat the same thing again and again? So instead of repeating this again and again, what we can do is we can create a custom validation control, form control with validation, right? So let us try to understand how we can do this, right? So let me create a class called form control helpers, right? So add class file form control dot helpers. So this is going to be one class file, and then let me copy paste this code, right? So this is my code. So basically what it is going to do. So now if you see, this is my form control with form control, right? So first of all, it should be a static class. We know it should be a static method. Yes. What exactly you want to return? I don't want to return any HTML tag. Instead, I want to return some HTML content. So what, for that purpose, I need to use HTML, HTML content. The first method should be the extension method to which it belongs to. Then what I'm passing the property name and the label text, right? And then what it is going to do, it is going to generate the label name property, whatever the text you provided, right? Then it is going to generate input type text element, right? So this example is completely bind with the text element, right? So whatever the class you want to provide, ID is nothing but your right property name, right? Whatever you provided name, it is also going to be same as the property name, and ASP for this validation is going to be for this property name. And then I'm creating this validation for, right? Currently you are not understanding these things because we have not discussed this thing, but again this ASP validation for, right, everything we are going to discuss in our coming session, right? Once we discuss the HTML helpers, right, then we will discuss this validation, model binding, everything. And here I'm but for now you just remember, right? If you are not getting if you are not understanding this thing, which is very little difficult to understand, but that is not that difficult. So simply what I'm doing here, I'm creating one form group. Inside this form group, I'm adding three elements. One is label, input, and span. Now you might be confusing, sir, why we are not using HTML helper? What is this? So this is, don't think that this is going to be your HTML element. This input what I'm using here, span what I'm using here, these are tag helper in ASP.NET Core MVC. What is tag helper? How to create a tag helper? Everything we are going to discuss from the next class onwards, right? So, but now you just remember these are the three pieces of code, right? If you are creating the text box, right? If you are creating a text box for name, text box for right first name, text box for last name, text box for, so in any kind of a text box you want to create, right? And if you are creating the text box control with these three pieces of information, what is the name of the text box, that label or the text box element and the validation element, then you need to repeat these three statement again and again for each control. So instead of repeating this three and three statement, means what I can say, you need to repeat this deep element altogether again and again. So instead of repeating the same thing, what I can do is I can create one HTML helper method which can simplify my job, right? Now, next what I need to do, suppose you want to create one username HTML helper method, right, from your view. So what you need to do, you need to do these things, right? So username, right? So instead of username, let me give this as a first name, first name. This is going to be your last name, and this is going to be your last name, right? So in this case, see, I have written only two pieces of information, but if you run the application, then you will see the number of HTML code generated is very huge, right? If you go and open the page source, then you will see, right? So one div element is generated, another div element is generated. Inside this div element, this label input span is there. Inside this div element, this label in span is there. So in your application, right, you can copy this code, right? You can paste it here like this, right? This is possible, right? So here, what you need to do, you need to specify this first name like this, right? This is not working because ASP validation for means it should be a property of your model, right? If you go to model, full name designation is there, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm using full name, right? So here I'm passing full name, and here you need to pass the full name. So the issue is here, right? Full name, right? The same thing you can also do with other properties, right? So do you think that, right, writing this much of code is good, or writing this much of code is right? So writing this number of code is good, or writing this number of code is good in your view? Which is good?
কোচিং আইডি
Hello?
শুরু করতে চাই
Yes, who is saying anything? Who is there on mute? Jitendra?
আঙ্গুলের জনকে দিচ্ছে আঙ্গুলের
Guys, clear? Is that clear? Why you should go for this custom HTML tag helper in this case?
Yes.
Right, so this is one of the example, right? Now I'm going to show you so few more examples, right? I'm giving you some example to you. I'm going with some more example, right? Paging nation control, right? These are the simple example. Theming color, right? If you want to apply theme based on condition, right? If you want to apply some meta tag, right? If you want to generate some breadcrumb helper, so just go through it. The typical one I'm going to explain, right? Paging nation control, right? So paging nation control means for that purpose you can also make use of a helper. See, if you want to use the page, right, current page, total items per page, right, and multiple places, then in that case you can make use of this custom HTML helper, right? Let me show you this thing. Paging nation helper.cs. I have created the custom helper class. Then I'm copy pasting this code, right? So copy pasting this code means this is the code. So basically you can see this is the static class. This is the, it is going to return some HTML string, and this is create paging nation method, helper method. And this method is taking few parameter, what is the current page and what is the total number of a page. And based on this scenario, it is using the logic, right? It is generating navigation element, applying the pagination class, right? And this is the current I equals to start. I is less than total number of pages, right? So it is going to start. Suppose you are you want to provide the pagination for 10. So you want to show the page number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. So in that case, the current page means you are currently in the third page, and the total number of page is 10, and it should start from 1, right? For that start index, you do not need to get the value. So start index is 1. Total number of page means how many number of pages you want, right? And in this case, current page. Current page means it is going to display the text in a different format if the IE value is equivalent to current. Else it is going to display that this is the page, right? So current page means page is going to be selected, and here we are applying some type of classes, and finally we are returning the result. Right now, what I'm going to do, right? If you want to see how it should looks like, right? Then what you need to do, just go to your index action method, right? And just replace this. Okay, so let me keep all these things here together, right? I'm not going to remove anything. So create pagination. Right now, if you run the application, then it is going to display the pagination like this. So first page, second page, third page, fourth page, fifth page, sixth page, seventh page, eighth page, ninth page, and the 10th page, right? So like this, it is going to display. So you can see, right, create pagination. I'm passing the current page as 2, and the total number page is 10. So it will start from 1, last page is 10, the current page is 2, right? So this is how it is going to work. So you can create this pagination control using HTML helper, right? Now you do not need to write all this complicated logic, right? If you go to this case, you do not need to write this complicated logic in each and every view. Rather, you can directly make use of this create pagination helper method. That will does the job for you, right? So dynamic menus, right? So basically, once we progress in this course, I will show you how you can create menus based on
Sir,
the role
one
permission. Yes.
uh, on create pagination. So the create pagination is the inbuilt method to create the pages, or
No, no, no,
we need
no.
to write.
So in this case, we are creating this method now. This
Oh,
is the
so
custom
there
helper.
is no
We are
inbuilt.
talking about custom helper method. So there is no inbuilt method available to create pagination. This is the method we created. And here we have written our logic, and this logic, whatever we have written in such a manner, it is generating this pagination control like this.
Okay, so if we want page concepts, then we need to write it as custom only. There is no out of
No, no,
box.
no. So there is no need to write custom, right? So you can make use of a built-in pagination control, right? But there is no built-in pagination control available in ASP.NET Core, right? So for that purpose, you need to write the HTML code, right? CSS code. But instead of also, what is my intention? You see, the test team will give you this nav class, all these things, right? Hard coded. So they are using this pagination at multiple pages. Then instead of creating these things, right, elements again and again at multiple different pages, you can make use of a helper method which will do the job for you. Okay, right? So there is nothing, right? There is no inbuilt pagination available in ASP.NET Core MVC. You have to create this manually. If you are using third-party, right, third-party live class library, third-party libraries like Kendo, you will get this thing automatically. But for now, you have to create this manually. Right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one HTML helper method for displaying the dynamic menus. Right. So dynamic menus using CSS HTML form. Dynamic menus often means what? Based on your role, based on your permission, based on other some criteria. Some of the menu is going to be displayed to one category of a user. Some other menus is going to be displayed to some other category of a user. Right. As we have not yet discussed roles, permissions, and other criteria. But once we progress, right, once we discuss the ASP.NET Core identity, then we will create how you can create a proper menus based on the role criteria, all these things. But now I'm going to show you how you can create those things using the custom HTML helper, right? So create a class file with the name menu items. So whatever the menu item that you want to show, right, for that purpose, we are going to create a class. So menu item.cs class, this is one of the class. And inside this class, what I'm doing, I'm creating the menu, whatever the text, the URL, all these things you need to display. This is the text, what you need to display. URL means whenever the user click on this text link, right, where you need to navigate, whether this is active or not. And again, within one menu, you might be have sub menus, right? So that sub menus you can create as a collection, and inside this menu it is going to display the sub menus, right? Once you display this thing in the UI, then you will get a better clarity. Then what we need to do, then we need to create one HTML helper, right? Custom HTML helper for creating the dynamic menus, right? So for that purpose, what I'm going to do, I'm creating one class file, right? I'm creating one class file menu HTML helper.cs, and then I'm copy pasting the code, right? So this is a simple, right? Simple means again, this is going to generate some kind of a HTML element. So here I'm using the string builder. I'm appending the text. This is one menu, right? Class menu here we have applied. This is the CSS class, right? Bootstrap class. then I'm using this list of active. So first of all, I'm checking whether it is active or not. If active, then apply the active class. If it is not active, then don't apply the active class. If you want to see, sir, what is active, right? All these things, then what I can show you is, see, currently this menu is active, right? Suppose here I'm applying, I'm clicking on this design button. So nothing is happening. Why? Okay. So what happened to my site? Right? Suppose here I'm creating this one, right? See, other menus are looking different, but this .NET Core is the color is going to be different. And here you can see out of all the menus, this one is selected, and this is possible because of this active class, right? If the menu is active, then apply this active class. Else, don't apply this one. Then append format. Then here you need to apply the href attribute. Attribute means what is the URL pattern, right? So URL pattern means the first pattern, first parameter is the URL, and second, right? If you remember, one href anchor element means here you need to provide the URL in the href attribute, and here you need to provide the text what you want to display. Then I'm checking whether the menu having any submenus. If submenus is there, then I'm applying the class submenu. Again, I'm doing the same thing, right? And then I'm creating the element using the UL and LI, right? HTML content, right? So this will create the dynamic menus. So here you only need to do one thing, right? You need to pass the list of menus. So it will go through the each menu item. Then again, it will check for each menu item. Is there any sub menus? If sub menu is there, then look through all the sub menus and bind them to the main menu, right? So once the menu is created, then return the HTML string to the UI. So UI means to the view from where we need to call this, right? So this is not yet done, right? So then what we need to do, right? We need to go to the right, where we need to do, we need to go to the index action method, and from index action method, right? So what we need to do, we need to replace this one. So dynamic menus, and here we are having list of menus, and that list of menus I'm passing to this dynamic menu. So now the important concept is, right, where we need to define the menu. So we have created the menu, we have calling that menu helper method from the view, right? But we have not yet defined the custom control, right? We have not yet defined what are the menus we need to display. So basically what I'm doing here, you can see index action method is there. And here, right, later you will understand, right, based on the role, right, based on the permissions, you need to create the menu dynamically. But for now, I'm hard coding the same thing, right? So here I'm creating a list of a menu. So this is menu item, home slash index, right, is active. And this is another new menu, right? So again, so I'm creating here two menu, one menu, two menu, right? If you want to create another menu, that is also possible, right? Suppose here I'm creating this one, home admin, and here it is I'm giving this as a contact us. CONTACT contact. So home slash contact, right? So that is what I'm giving here. Is active? No, it is not active. So at a given point of time, only one menu is going to be active, and that is what I'm provided here. This is another menu, and the link text is this one, admin is this one. But within this menu, I'm creating some sub menus like this. So if you want to create this sub menu inside here also, that is also possible, right? So what you need to do, this one. See, by default, see guys, remember, by default the boolean type value is false. So here I have not provided the boolean type value, but here I have provided the boolean type value. So there is no difference. If you provided false, that is fine. If you do not specify anything, then by default the boolean type property value is going to be false. So here I have provided this. So text is, I'm providing some text right here. I'm providing some other text, any name you want to give, right? Whatever you want to give. And this is our list of a menu. And if you go to this menu item, this is going to be a right, class, right? If you go to the definition, then you will see here it is having text URL is active and the sub item. So here you can see this is the text property, URL property is active property. And for this menu, there is no sub menu. So I'm not using that sub menu property here. And but for this menu item, right, you can see the text is this one, URL is this one. Okay, let me give this as home/admin/index, right? So any URL you want to give admin/index, then you can see this menu having sub menu items. So whatever the sub menu you want to show for this user, that is what you can display here. And another menu is there, right? And again, this menu having sub menu item, that is what I am providing here. So once you have the list of menu item that you want to display to a user, then you need to pass this list of menus to the viewer, right? And what type of a data we are passing? We are passing a list of a menu. That means list of menu should be the model of our view. And here you can see I'm passing list of menu item, right? And then I'm using this dynamic menu custom HTML helper method. I'm passing this one. Now run the application, then you will see that menu items are going to be displayed as expected. See, home is there, admin is there, contact us this. Here, as we are using UI, LI and UI element, right? If you go to the helper method on order list, and then I'm using a li. So this is the reason why it is displaying the data like this. But in real time, instead of displaying this thing, you can also display the data in the header like this. That is also possible, and that for that purpose you need to get the HTML element, right, from your designer team. They will give you the proper HTML element. You just need to use them here, and you just need to make sure that when to apply which class, how to apply the class, how to apply the URL, how to apply the dynamic text element. Clear, guys? Clear?
Yes.
Yes, clear.
So you can also create some reusable UJet, right? Suppose you want to display the name, profile, URL, and biodata at multiple places, right? Then you can create a model class name, profile, URL, biodata. You can create a custom HTML helper, widget HTML helper, right? And you can bind the data as it is, and you can return this data, and you can use this profile card anywhere, from any views. And but important thing is that whatever the data it requires, that data you need to pass, right? So that is also you can go through configurable data tables. That is also possible. You can go through the documentation, right? And you can practice this thing. How you can create a table with the data, right? Everything is provided, implementation is provided, right? So you can go through and you can create these things, right? So these are the real-time examples of using custom HTML helper methods. Clear? Right, so it is not possible for me to explain all the 10 examples of each helper method. For example, I will explain. Rest you need to understand by yourself, right? Once you understand two, three examples, then all the examples, the process is going to be same. The process means you need to create the class as static. You need to pass the first parameter as HTML helper method. You need to make the method as static. Then you need to decide what exactly you want to return. You want to return one HTML tag. You want to return some HTML content. What do you want to return? If you want to return some HTML tag, then you need to use tag builder, iTag builder as the return tag. If you want to return HTML content, then you need to return iHTML content. But in this case, that content is going to be of a string. So here you can see this is nothing but a string, and here I'm using HTML string. So similarly, you need to understand what exactly. Here you can see I'm returning HTML content. Right, here also, here I have also used HTML content. So HTML content means this is how. So HTML content means by default at the end it is going to be in the form of a string only. So you can make use of string builder to build the string, but finally whenever you are going to return, you need to convert that string builder to string, right? So this is how you can make use of this HTML, right, custom helper classes, how you can use built-in helper classes, and how you can create custom helper classes, right? That's it for today. Anybody having any question, they can ask me. Guys, one more update I need to give you. Tomorrow we do not have any class. Tomorrow my new C# advanced C# class is going to start. Before the class, I need some time because I'm going to get a lot of calls, going to do some pre-activities. So tomorrow no class. The next class as it is day after tomorrow. Right? If anybody wants to attend my ASP.NET, right? My advanced C# class they can attend from tomorrow, right? But there is time. The time is going to be 9:30 to 11. But we do not have that regular ASP.NET Core class tomorrow. Tomorrow we do not have any class. Next class it will be start from day after tomorrow. And from day after tomorrow, I'm going to show you how you can make use of tag helper. We have discussed HTML helper. We have discussed a plain HTML content. Now it's time to understand tag helper and why we should go and why we should prefer tag helper in our ASP.NET Core application. Once you discuss the tag helper again it will take 2 to 3 classes. Then we will discuss that model binding and model validation. Once model binding and validation completed, then we will move towards the main important concept, right? Two main important concepts. One is Entity Framework Core, and then we'll discuss ASP.NET Core Identity. Any question from anyone related to today's session? Any question, guys?
Sir, to generate the menu dynamically, suppose we have menu item stored in database. So we have to provide the database connectivity. Suppose some menu item I have to add.
Basically, you need to create one method, right? That method is going to, right? You can call that method, right? Say in this case, what happening? In this case, I'm using this concept, right? But instead of this, you just tell me who has the capacity, right? Who has the capacity to do the same thing, right? He is going to work with the database, get the menu item data. He is going to generate the HTML content and return the HTML content to the UI. Is there any functionality, any concept available in ASP.NET Core MVC? View component, you want to know what is view component?
Yes.
What is view component? I'm asking what is view component?
View component just like our, the like user controls or partial view.
The component is partial view. First of all, try to learn what is view component, when to use view component, how to use view component, then you will understand these things, right? So do you think that, right, from our action method, right, to our action method, we are going to generate these things? Do you think that from our action method, then you can imagine if we are having 100 action method, do you think that this code I'm going to write again and again in all the 100 action method?
No. The code should come dynamically. It should not be
exactly
that we have to write again
dynamically
and again.
from the database, right? Then who has the capability to work with the view component? View component having both CS class file, CS HTML file, CS class file will work with the database, generate the right, get the data, prepare the component, then that data it is going to pass to the partial view, right? Whatever code we have written here, right? Whatever code we have written inside this menu HTML helper, we can move this code to a partial view. The partial view is going to render the HTML content, and that HTML content we can return to the main view via the view component.
Okay.
Understand?
Yes.
Right? Just I'm giving you, I'm giving this task to you only, right? So don't work with the, right? I'm not talking to get the data from the database. So my intention is, so whatever code I have written here, just to try to convert this code to not only to Sam, this is a task to each and every person. So whatever custom helper method we have written here, try to convert this to view component and do the same thing. Clear? The view component should generate the right list of menus. The view component should pass that list of menus to the partial view. The partial view should generate the menus and return to the view component, and view component from the view component to the main. That is one task I'm giving to you guys. And I'm very interested to give all this kind of a task to you guys. But what I'm getting, I'm not getting any output from you guys. So this is the reason why I'm not giving any task. So in this case, that view component, I can give one task. I can say, please try to convert this example to this view component and see whatever, which one is good, which one is taking more time. Can you please use some kind of what I can say, exactly. I'm forgetting that particular class, that what we can use to check how much time is executing, right? Right. So basically, you need to understand all these things. Which one is taking more time? Which one is taking less time? Which is easier for me, right? So sometimes view component is easier for me. Sometimes HTML helper is easier for me. Which one I need to choose? Which one is taking more time? Which one is giving more clarity? And all these things we need to understand, right? And that thing you will only understand whenever you are trying to do some example by yourself, whenever you are trying to do multiple examples, whenever you are trying to compare the output of one type to another type, and whenever you are doing some kind of a R&Ds. R&D is important, right? If I'm giving this task, then you just need to think, can I convert this example to view component? If yes, then how? If this is achievable using view component, then which one is taking more time? Which one is easier for me to use? Which one is easier to reuse? Which one is giving better performance? Those things you need to understand, right? Clear, guys? I'm not giving task to you guys. Why? Because you are not giving the output to me. You are not doing any kind of practices. You are not doing the practices. Then why should I give you task? Right? See, if I'm giving my 100% to this training, then you also need to give 100% to this training. If your percentage is going to be reduced, then my percentage is definitely going to be reduced. That doesn't mean I'm not going to explain the concept, right? I'm definitely going to explain the concept. I'm going to cover every concept in depth. But the thing is that the other things which are not related to the concept I'm going to miss, right? For example, I have provided one document related to the difference between right, multi-threading, asynchronous programming, and parallel programming. Nobody have gone through the document. Then why I'm going to do you think that the same document, same type of content I'm going to provide you again and again? Definitely the answer is going to be no, right? So it should be two-way traffic, it should not be one-way traffic. Anybody,
Right.
I'm ready to say, see, whenever anybody having any query, any doubt, they are putting in the group. I'm ready to help. Even if someone asking some question, I'm always giving my time to resolve the problem. I'm giving my solution, right? Even if I do not know, then I'm saying let's do the R&D. But that but you have to give your input as well. If you are not giving an input, then at the end you will learn nothing. Right? So don't think that whatever example I'm giving to you, that is final, that is enough. Right? That is just I'm giving example. You just need to understand the concept, but you also need to try something different example. You also need to try to do the same example in a different manner. Right? So there is no difference if you are doing one example in 100 different manner, it's equivalent to 100 different program in the same manner. So same example you can try using different approach. That is fine. And if you are doing the same example in different approach, then you will also get clarity. What approach is good for me? Which one is giving good performance? Which one is easier to maintain? Which one is easier to write the code? Right? Which one is easier to reuse? All these things you need to understand. And if you do not know what is string builder, right? Why I'm not using the string class, instead I'm using string builder, then I'm not going to explain why I'm not using, even though in this case, if I'm going to use the string builder, a string class, then that is also going to be work as expected. There is no issue. Why I'm not using string builder, why I'm prefer to use string of, right? So that is what you need to understand. What is mutable, what is immutable, right? What is the difference? Why I'm getting good performance using string builder? Why I'm not getting good performance using string class? When to use string? When to use string builder? Right? All these things you need to know. Thank you, guys. Any question from anyone? Okay. Thank you, guys.